Minute is rated R. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is also rated R. We're going to spend this time discussing the movie in gory detail, and along the road we will talk about some adult content and use some of our favorite swear words.
Murak, sopa, oui, bleh.
Consider yourselves warned.
Welcome to Rocky Horror Minute, the podcast where we discuss the Rocky Horror Picture Show one deliberating minute at a time. I am one of your hosts, Kelly.
And I'm your other host, Leandra.
And today we are discussing minute 11. Leandra, take us through this minute.
I very much will. So, let me paint you a picture with my words. We ended the last minute with Brad and Janet going into what we affectionately call the asshole waltz. And they're singing, dare I say, crooning through the final piece of this. They're going back and forth singing the final lines of Damn It, Janet, where Janet says, "Oh, Brad, I'm mad." And then Brad says, "Damn it, Janet." And then both of them harmonize on "I love you." And then you see them kiss. You see Riff Raff, Columbia, and Magenta just kind of staring over 5 million years away. And then you see a very, very fantastic high-end camera editing doodad thing. Kelly, what am I going for?
A wipe?
A wipe? Yes. I know words.
Camera editing doodad thing for sure.
Yeah, that's the technical term.
Yes.
So that brings us to Charles Gray, who is playing the criminologist. We first see him from behind, which is how some people see people for the first time.
Yeah,
And
Oscar, still in our hearts.
Yes, pour one out for him.
Yeah.
So he turns around and says, "I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey." And then he has a pregnant pause, and then he says, "It seemed a fairly ordinary night when Brad Majors and his fiancée, Janet Weiss, too young ordinary." And then it just ends. We don't know what they are.
Yeah.
What sort of too young ordinary things are they? Are they triffids? I can only assume.
We've got a lot to unpack in this minute, but before we do that, I just think we should discuss, now that it's over, the second song of the movie, Damn It, Janet, and our feelings on the song altogether.
This may not be the best song to listen to on its own, but I feel like this is the best song to get me excited for Rocky Horror shadow casting, because I know a lot of callbacks through Damn It, Janet.
Yeah, as a song, it's a song. I definitely, it's not a bad song, and I do think that there's a couple, or at least one song in this movie that I really don't care for. Sorry, Richard O'Brien, who I know is an avid listener, but I really do think that this song accomplishes its goal very well of establishing these two characters, and they're, at the beginning, they're really white bread American ways, and their earnestness about getting married and living this life that they supposedly want, you know. So anyway, I think for me, my rating out of 5, since we're gonna do that for every song, I would give it probably a 3, just for personal feelings.
If we're talking about how it fits with the story, if you look at the hero's quest, this is really the beginning of that. The innocence before the fall. It is.
Yeah.
It's really just a way to set that baseline of purity and happiness for them. And as a song outside of the movie, I think that I'd have to go with you, maybe even give it a 3.5, because
Yeah.
I like being different.
In the context of the musical, I like it. It's just not like, it's not a song that blows me away like some of the others in the film, but I think it's completely solid. So that is my thoughts on that song. So science fiction double feature still in the lead.
It sure is. It's gonna be a while before we have a fight about what replaces that. That's a really high
I
bar.
Yeah, no, it is. That is a really truly amazing song. What are your thoughts on the criminologist whose name may or may not be Judge Oliver Wright?
I don't think his name is Judge Oliver Wright.
I don't really either, but he he bears a strong resemblance.
He
Striking.
does.
Yeah.
Perhaps they're related.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure. Kelly, this is perhaps a question that I should have been asking about everyone else in this.
Okay.
Where does the criminologist rank on the bangability of cast members?
I was gonna save it for when we were, spoiler alert, gonna do some listener questions next minute. But I actually received a listener question from Owen. Hi, Owen. Thanks for listening. About who on the cast we would most wish to bang. He probably said it more cool than that. But anyway, he's not like not fuckable. He's definitely not towards the bottom, but he's contending with Barry Bostwick. One of my in this movie was like one of my first early crushes, so that would probably be number one for me. Susan Sarandon is a beautiful woman, so yeah, I mean she's towards the top as well. Peter Hinwood, not my type as much, but still, Patricia Quinn is hot in this movie. I don't know. So anyway, I would say like towards the middle.
Yeah, I think he's middle of the pack for me too. I mean, if you have like a daddy thing going on, he definitely gives that off like real hard. But if you don't, then I don't know. He's suave and debonair, but
That's
maybe
true.
maybe not rock hard for me.
So Leandry has a semi for
Yeah, it's just a little chubby.
Crim. Yeah, it took me a long. I keep almost calling him Judge Wright. I don't know why. I haven't watched Shock Treatment in like forever either, so I don't know where this is coming from.
Yeah, it's been like 3 days for me.
Yeah, exactly. I did. I mean, I listened to the soundtrack a lot more, but we can talk more about the full list at a different time. But yeah, that's where I am. Good question.
And we can talk more about that in great detail just to appease Owen.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We will send Owen some written fiction about this.
Dear Penthouse, I never thought it
Yeah.
would happen to me.
um, he would definitely be like choking you with those ascots and stuff, though, right?
I have not considered that.
Yeah, right, bitch.
No, I have never once gone, I wonder if Charles Gray would strangle me with his ascot.
Oh my god, the cat.
Yin has some feelings about this. Yin, do
She's
you want to weigh in?
God. I don't want to know about Yin's Charles Gray fantasies. Yeah, let's move on.
I've got a lot of random shit to wrap up in the church before we even get into your kind of fantasy about Charles Gray.
Okay, I'll
Just
try and keep it in my pants for now, but no
yeah,
promises.
I mean, do your best. That's all I ask. Do my best. Do
Yeah,
my best.
okay, I'll try.
Just a couple of things that we see in that final couple of seconds of Damn It, Janet. You get a pretty good look at Brad's cufflinks in the mid shot with the altar, and they're the basic black cufflinks, but it's just a really nice little thing that I don't think most people notice. Brad's costume has a lot of moving pieces to it, and a lot of them are stupid, but separately, a lot of them are very nice. And then going over to just some of the other things I've seen, it was during my research for this, and perhaps you are smarter than me, you probably are. It was then that I realized that the cross is not part of the fancy frosted white window. It's actually on the altar and just kind of pushed up so that it fits right into the window. Under the altar is is the same oriental rug that I've seen under every single altar that I've ever had to move in a church. I don't make the rules. I guess that they just come with the church. No idea. And just kind of continuing the trend of Brad and Janet acting like normal people, except they don't. They stoop or kneel at the end of the song to have the most like platonic kiss ever. I don't feel like there's a lot of chemistry to it, but it does set us up very well for later on when they both hoe right the fuck out. And good job on Sue Blaine. Um, Janet's wearing a hat in church, which is, a thing, but at least it's far enough back on her head that Brad doesn't hit it uh, when they lock lips. Another note about Riff Raff's costuming in this, he has completely bullshit stuff going on. He's got this black suit jacket over top of overalls, and his shirt is just like an impossible to find shirt. It is an Amish collared dress shirt with light blue stripes. Why is this a thing? Columbia is wearing something that's almost off the rack. It's just very basic. Magenta has, even though she's dressed very kind of subdued, she has a very gaudy cameo right at her neck. And I didn't realize just how big and like surrounded by gold filigree almost it was. Then we finally get into see the criminologist, and he's holding a cigarette in a cigarette holder, and he's wearing some sort of gray velvet smoking jacket. He's not facing us, and he's in a medium tan leather wheelie chair with brass rivets. This feels like something that would be in somebody's study just about anywhere. If you ever saw the claymation TV show Moral Oral, I'm pretty sure that Oral's dad had this set up in his little study. But he's looking at this clearly added after the fact image from the wedding that we just saw, where somebody has literally pointed to Frank as the priest with an arrow, and they've even circled Riff in red. And I still didn't
Oh,
notice this. I still didn't
shit, you're
fucking notice
right.
this.
I forgot about this. That's part of why I thought they were in the That's part of why I thought they were in on this and like we're doing recon on the wedding.
I don't know.
I'm
Maybe
back to thinking that
I
just
don't know.
now.
I
Why
love
else would they be circled? If
I
they're
love
just supposed to be
exploration.
random characters, yeah, that must be why they'd be I mean, like if they were supposed to be random characters who were just double cast, that wouldn't make any sense.
When was the first time that you actually took the opportunity to look at what's going on the screen, even though they have it on the screen for several seconds? Like I didn't notice who they were pointing at or who was circled for just fucking years.
I had noticed that at some point in the past and forgotten it and stopped paying attention to this scene years ago. Where I had arrived at when we began doing this podcast was I had an idea that it was those characters doing recon on Brad and Janet in their wedding scene, and I didn't remember why I arrived at that conclusion besides the fact that it was the same actors. But that's why. And now I'm returning to my original stance. The
I don't have that.
Transylvanians, I don't know.
Yeah. I never had that because it wasn't until several years later that I ever looked at that scene and went, holy shit, they have Frank getting pointed out as the priest and Riff Raff's just circled in big fucking red. I have to blame the fact that I was just a very small child when I was watching this initially, but
Yeah.
it's not a great excuse. They've literally like paused the action to go, hey, look at these people.
Yeah. Oh, and I guess that's the photo that was taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just put that together because I'm, smart. I'm back now to thinking that at least Frank, Magenta, Riff, and Columbia were literally there at the church doing recon on Brad and Janet.
But why?
Still unsure about the Transylvanians. I mean, so the movie does not bother to really give us an idea of what Frank's mission was supposed to be.
I know that he's
It
making
seems
a
like
man.
the Yeah, but it seems like he was just doing that because he wanted to.
I
No?
mean, I don't know.
Yeah, anyway, these are all things for future minutes. I think what I will do is poll our listeners at when this airs and see what they think. If it was Frank, Brad, and Janet, or it was definitely Brad and Janet. If it was Frank, Magenta, and Riff, and Columbia at the church, Transylvanians, I think could go either way. But anyway,
And they
I'm gonna
often do.
poll you guys. Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna poll you guys and just let me know if you think it was them. But again, consider that criminologist photo because I forgot about that.
Just moving right along, though. Keep
Leandra's
in
the Dana
mind,
Scully of the two of us, by the way.
I'm the one with far more conspiracy theories. I think we're both Fox Mulder. I'm just the one that's been dragging Twin Peaks also.
Yeah, okay.
So if you haven't seen Twin Peaks, we will not be doing a Twin Peaks minute, not until like season 8. But,
Yeah,
you know, tuck in. So we haven't even seen Charles Gray's face yet. But then he does turn around, and the callback at this moment is, "Good evening, Mr. Bond," which I really think
yeah.
people laugh at, even if they don't know that Chucky was a Bond villain. It just,
Well,
it
because
feels
even if
right.
you didn't, yeah, I mean, even if you didn't know that, he looks like a Bond villain, and he's dressed like a Bond villain and he talks like one.
Oh,
Because he
yeah,
is one.
he is.
But even if you didn't know that, he's like a classic. He has the classic look and appeal of a Bond villain.
Appeal. Hmm. Interesting
Mm,
choice of words.
uh, hey, I'm loosening my collar over here. Loosening my ascot tied by Charles Gray.
50 Shades of
uh,
Charles.
yeah.
Because,
Um,
50 Shades of Grey was already taken.
God, it's true. That's so fucking annoying.
Can you
What
imagine
a
how much
different
better?
movie. Oh my god. What a different movie slash I guess it was a book first. I haven't had the pleasure of reading the books.
I did.
Oh yeah, I know you did, bitch.
So,
uh
moving back to this film
yeah, if
about
we
the
could
erotic side
never
of
talk about
Charles Gray.
that. um my I loved the set for his study except for the fucking globe, which is going to have a prominent moment at the end of the film, spoiler alert. The globe is like so cheap and crappy looking compared to everything else.
It
You
really
know?
is.
It doesn't look like a globe that would be in this guy's study.
And
Yes?
I definitely agree with you on this. Just taking a look at at everything that we see here, there's so very much going on. We've got this eagle that's it's a brass eagle that just lives on the fucking desk. There are gorgeous books behind. There's a microscope on the desk also, which we never see used. I guess thankfully.
Well, I mean, yeah, well, true. A microscope for the field of criminology, or for that matter, a globe. I just don't think that that's it. I mean, he's not like a forensics expert. I don't know why he would need a microscope. And I don't really know why anyone needs a globe, but especially not for criminology. I don't know. Just a thought.
Am I a thought? I know you are.
Yeah, yeah. I am just a thought.
We yet again have to bring up Sue Mary because this is yet another scene that she done fucked up. We see the projector screen down for the photo. And then by the time Chucky stands up and turns around, the projector screen is already back up. You don't see him move it, it's just already rolled up. And uh, I can suspend some disbelief for that. But if we're going to make the case that Sue Mary maybe didn't do the best job of continuity, I think that we can add this to our list of flaws. We see that this is, I don't know, I feel like this is clearly a law library, but for whatever reason, the only book that you can easily see the name of is on marital law. And I don't think it says martial law. I really do think it says marital law. And then he shows us his
That's
Pokemons.
he, he does indeed.
He shows us this really fancy pants scrapbook. On the front of the book, it says The Denton Affair on it. It's this gorgeous kind of greenish leather bound book. And we'll confirm in the next minute that it says The Denton Affair. I do need to shout out my very good friend Sean Hall, because he did a huge amount of research on the Krim book and even recreated it as much as humanly
Aw.
possible, including what is written under every picture as far as we can tell. So he put all of his research out on his website, which is seanhalldesign.com, and it's very pretty. He has high res photos that you can download so you can print out and make your own fucking Krim book for your cast. And
Aw.
I've looked at those pictures and even caught more details just from, not even related to Krim. There are some pictures inside of the Krim book that are so detailed that I go, oh fuck, well, I didn't know that.
That is so awesome.
Yeah. I think that my favorite thing that I noticed when I started looking really deep into the book and the pictures is that we're supposed to think that Brad and Janet have just recently graduated from high school. And I say this
What, you don't think
because
they look like high school students?
no, that no.
Well, clearly you've never watched a TV show or movie set in high school.
But like I don't even think that they're trying to go for high schoolers. I mean, and I'm
No,
only
it's weird.
getting that given the fact that the picture that is in the book for Janet, under the picture it says that it's a class senior portrait,
Yeah.
and I don't understand. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
no,
that
no.
they look like they're 35 and like decrepit or anything. I just they could have just said, "Oh, and they recently graduated from college," or "Oh, um, Dr. Scott was their professor in college." Something like
Yeah, to
that.
be honest, I always thought it was college.
I
All
mean,
of
that would
this was
make sense.
college. Yeah, but you're right. They're high school portraits. And this was Denton, Texas in the 70s. So the chances of them waiting until their mid 20s to get engaged is highly unlikely.
I mean, I just wonder if that's the reason that Ralph and Betty, I mean, just going back to their sob story, why they got married so quickly. Clearly, it was
Mhm.
a shotgun wedding. They're too young to have
Yes.
gotten married, and they had to do it all so very quickly that everybody's wearing just whatever hodgepodge of bullshit they can find.
Although, yeah, I mean, Ralph and Betty look even less like they just graduated high school.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So that brings us to sort of the end of that piece of the minute as far as details that I wanted to share. Do you have any callbacks that you particularly like about this one?
Yes, I do. I've heard, I wouldn't say I particularly like this one, but when in the final I Love You where they harmonize, I've heard different things. I've heard I Sniff Glue.
Oh, that's a nice one.
I've I've heard I Smell Poo.
Hmm.
Yeah, they're not I gotta be honest, not favorites of mine, but I do hear something pretty much every time I do the show. It might be another one of those that's just easy for the audience to do. But after that, you get a real classic that always gets a big laugh if it's pulled off with correct timing. Right around the time that final note is ending, if you say, "Ladies and gentlemen, I give you two people who haven't fucked," that's Brad and Janet. Three people who don't give a fuck, that's when it shows Riff, Magenta, and Columbia. A screen that splits four ways, because that's the wipe we're gonna get, which brings you to a man with no fucking neck. And that is when we first see the criminologist, whose necklaceness is the subject of many fan favorite callbacks. And unfortunately, my experience, I love the good no neck callbacks. Unfortunately, in my experience, people get a little excitable with those, especially when they're new to Rocky, and they just they just start screaming about his lack of a neck in response to everything he says.
Yeah, and I think that
Yeah,
it's not so much that Charles Gray has no neck, it's that he's wearing several things that obscure the fact that he has a neck, and he has a very
right.
square jaw, so it just makes him look like a fucking bobblehead.
True, but I mean, it's funny that he has no visible neck. That's
It is.
amusing. What people go overboard with it a little bit because there are a lot of good callbacks about it, and then people just start to man, cat. People just start to kind of go crazy with it. But I do like the good ones. The first thing he says is, "I would like, if I may." I always say, "You may not," and then they start to flip through the book, and that's when you see Brad. People say asshole, statement to prove it. And then you see Janet and you say slut, statement to prove it. And
That's not a
then
statement, that's a resume.
yeah, that's the response to that callback, which I think is quite good. So anyway, those are my callbacks for this minute.
I really like those. There are a couple of ones that I kind of remember from different iterations of different casts that I've either seen or been a part of. And for me, it's just going back to Damn It, Janet. It's see the amazing Janet Weiss kiss her own asshole, show me three people who don't give a fuck, and a four-way split to a man with no fucking neck.
Uh-oh.
So I like that one pretty well, but I think that the iterations of fuck are, I think, more clever or cleverer. Um,
Leandra.
and then when we see Charles Gray, we've already talked about the good evening, Mr. Bond. And I feel like if you're talking about lines from the Rocky Horror Picture Show, one of the most iconic lines is I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey. It's something that you get in a lot of ads for the movie. You I know that you said that the CD that you grew up to that had all the
Yeah.
songs, it had this as a track.
Yeah, this entire thing from the beginning to the end of this monologue plays before the there's a light track, or over at the Frankenstein place is the name of that song. But anyway, it plays before that track on the CD that I grew up with as a kid.
Remember when CDs were a thing? Pepperidge Farm
Oh, I do.
remembers.
I remember playing that CD in the car with my dad. Me and my brother were both obsessed with it, and my dad is super, super, super religious. I know he's not listening because if he were, he would have stopped listening and disowned me by now. But he's super religious and conservative and not. But he like used to be cool when he was young. Before he got crazy religious, he was like super into like new wave music and art cinema and stuff. So he's like a Rocky Horror fan, but was like struggling with that at that point. So anyway, my brother and I were always listening to this CD in the car until he like blew up about it. And he
Oh,
was like, it's completely inappropriate and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was weird because that was like the 400th time we had listened to it in the car with him.
and that's just not my experience. My dad loved Rocky Horror. My mom loved Rocky Horror. It was just such a treasured thing to my dad. We used to watch the film at least on Halloween, and then once we were old enough to go see a live performance of it, we did. I don't know. I've talked with him a couple of times about whether or not he regrets introducing me to Rocky, given the fact that it has become the thing I do. And I don't know. We go back and forth. What would I be doing were I not doing Rocky? The world will never know.
Yeah, and again, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Leandra. Nice to nice to know that you guys listen. But
Separately, though, they are not.
yeah, separately, no. They're I mean, while they are both named Mr. and Mrs. Leandra, they are in separate homes. That's all I have for callbacks. Did you have any others?
When Chucky says I would like, for me the callback is you would, wouldn't you? And then Chucky goes, if I may, and then you go, you may not. And then he says, take you on a strange journey. And then there's this incredibly long pause where clearly they're just waiting for me to say something. And the thing that people say is, how strange was it? So strange they made a movie out of it. Not the book, the movie. And this asshole took pictures. And that's when he pulls out the Krim book, and you have this 4 pages to asshole, 3 pages to asshole, 2 pages to asshole, 1 page to asshole, asshole statement improvement, and then we get back on track. But I think that that is it for this minute. So tune in next time when we talk a little bit more about Chucky, answer some fan questions, and overall just have a grand old time telling Yin to shut the fuck up in the background.
Yeah, she's now snuggling up to me on the couch as though she didn't just ruin my podcast.
She ruined it. No.
Yes, soiled it.
So let's go ahead and end this one like we've ended all the ones previous with, now
You
don't have to
go home,
but you can't stay here, so get the fuck out.
You're deliberately fucking it up. I know you are.
I know.